All right, Neil here with some Friday night entertainment, entertaining myself for the evening. So the statement was made in the Ontraport group that we couldn't get tags in Ontraport to update deals inside of Pipedrive. So I went and started a Pipedrive account and set this up. So yeah, it does work. So here we go. So I make a new contact inside my Sandbox account here, and I'm going to call it testing Pipedrive. I'm going to call it and I'm going to give it a title. I'm using this as the project name just because I was lazy and didn't want to set up another field. Um, so there we go. I've got my cool project that I'm selling, and I'm going to put a price to it. I'm going to say that my cool project is worth $500,000. So there we go. I've now set up a new contact inside of Ontraport, and I head on over to Pipedrive. And let's see, contacts, people, there it is, testing Pipedrive. There's my new contact. If I go back into my Ontraport account and I add a tag, new lead, come back into Pipedrive, and there it is, my cool project that I'm selling for $500,000. Go back into Ontraport and say lead contact made, head back into Pipedrive, and bing, moving to the next stage. So you could trigger that 100 different ways, but I did it with tags. In this account, I've got customer status, so I could have made a funnel out of this drop down, and every time I change this, that could have triggered it. If I refresh this now, you're going to see that I have a couple other fields in here that I created to make this happen. And those are, here we go. Those are Pipedrive ID and Pipedrive Deal ID. So I fed that back into Ontraport. So now when I want to update this, either the person or the deal, I can send those IDs into Pipedrive and it will know who I'm talking about. Of course, I could do this with custom objects. Like I have a lead object set up in this account. So I could have done it with leads. Where this was the deal and this was the person, just like it is in Pipedrive. And you can see I've got status in here, I've got inquiry, so I probably got a whole, what do I got set up in this? Status inquiry. Oh, I don't have a drop down on this. So, I don't know, I was testing something with this, but usually I have a drop down here of all the different stages for a custom object deal. So this works off of, here I did it with 3 rules. So I got a rule for new contact, a new rule for new lead, and rule for contact made. So every time it changes stages, there's a rule that fires and pushes them out to Zapier. So this is all done with webhooks. I'm pushing out to Zapier. I'm sending out their name and email address in this case. You know, of course, it could be a lot more info that I send out. That's creating the contact. Here for the deal, I'm sending out the contact ID that Pipedrive created, so the Pipedrive ID for the person, sending out the title of the deal, which I just did as title, and the price, and the email address, because I need to push back into this email, into this contact, the deal ID. So that's why I pushed that out, and then in this last one, when I changed, I didn't. I just pushed out the deal ID, which I now have inside of Ontraport, and the email address. And these all go to different webhooks inside of Zapier. And in Zapier, I've got 3 corresponding Zaps made that are catching the webhook, creating the person in Pipedrive, and then pushing back the person's ID into Ontraport. So now I've got the ID on both ends. I know I've got the email and the ID and got it all paired up. One trick over here is that for my, is it in this one? It is not in this one. It's in the, it is in the Pipedrive contact created, lead created. So this is my deal creation. I believe it's in this one. So when I'm creating the deal, yeah, so the person, normally here they've got this, just like organization, they have add a search or, and it just gives you the values that are in your Pipedrive account. But if you want to use, here it's got to be dynamic because it could be any number of people or deals that are pushing in. So I changed it to use a custom value, and then I'm using that, here I am using the, come on, trying to search it here, cooperate. There we go, now it's finally cooperating. I'm using the ID that I made for my Pipedrive ID that I pushed back in. So contact ID. And this, I called it contact ID when I made that webhook in my rules. So here I called it deal ID, and the other I called it contact ID, which was the Pipedrive person's ID. So that's the trick to making that work. And then I pushed in the value. And then again, because this was creating the deal, the step created the deal, then I had to push the deal back into Ontraport. So in Ontraport, I needed their email address, so I pushed it out of Ontraport, and I'm pushing it right back in. And I'm pushing it into the Pipedrive deal ID, which gets returned on this deal creation step. So when this deal gets created right there, it's giving me the ID of that deal. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to push it back into their contact record inside of Ontraport, so then I can do, so then I can push that back in the future when I want to update that deal. So there you go, the quick 7-minute and 25-second overview of how to do this in using Ontraport, Zapier, and Pipedrive. Completely doable. So, all right, have a good evening.